Man, they're the Monkees. Take the wildest ride of your life with the world's zaniest string quartet. Swing with the Monkees at 7:30, 6:30 Central Time.
Hey, we're the Monkees.
Hey, it's the Monkees. Then and now, 11 of their classic hits.
Another Pleasant Valley Sunday.
Plus 3 new songs not available anywhere else. Then and now, the best of the Monkees. It's the Monkees album you just gotta have.
I'm a believer, I couldn't leave her.
Avon is Christmas calling now. There are many rewards to shopping early with your Avon representative. She'll help you plan exciting gifts for everyone you know. From Avon for Men, cool aftershaves and unusual decanters. Remember friends with Avon's cologne gems, a fragrant gift set, a festive Avon lipstick. Surprise a pretty little girl on Christmas Day with Miss Lollipop, Avon's new grown-up fragrance group. And see how Avon's good habit toys entertain a youngster as he learns good grooming habits. Avon has so many gift ideas for everyone you know, and only your Avon representative can show them to you. Do plan a visit with her soon. And let Avon's wonderful Christmas gifts brighten your holiday.
The first time they were on TV, they caused a national sensation. When they showed up on MTV, people demanded they go on tour. And when you clamored for a daringly different new show on Nickelodeon, they said,
"Sign us up, we're the Monkees."
That's right, the Monkees have come to Nickelodeon. Mickey, Davy, Peter, and Mike. The Monkees are back because you demanded it. The music, the mayhem, the unmitigated monkey madness has invaded the first kids network because you demanded them on Nickelodeon.
Here we come, walking down the street. We get the funniest looks from everyone we meet. Hey, hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We're just trying to be friendly. I'll come and watch you sing and play. We're the young generation, and we've got something to say. Hey, we're the Monkees. You never know where we'll be found, so you better get ready. We may be coming to your town.
Sitcom, all ye faithful, a Christmas podcast special, where for the fourth time I discuss 25 Christmas sitcom episodes. Please come and listen as we count down to Christmas. You should see Punky Brewster, the Partridges and Benson. Michael J. Fox will return, and for one more year the Fonz will definitely have one last episode with the Fonz. Here I come, listen please to me, talking about the Monkees on day 23 of Sitcom, Are Ye Faithful? We've only got a few days to go, and then it's finally Christmas. Time to get on with the show. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy day 23. Happy December 23rd. Oh, my goodness gracious. We're in the final stretch of year 4 of Sitcom, All Ye Faithful. And if I am doing my calculations correctly, this is episode 98 of Sitcom All Ye Faithful. Think about it, 25 episodes a year, and this is year 4, so I know the 100th episode of Sitcom All Ye Faithful is returning a classic to me. Probably not a classic episode, and definitely not a classic season, but a classic television show for me. But that is Wednesday. We're still on Monday. It is Monday, everybody, and I'm officially on vacation. Yes, my vacation kind of started a half day on Friday, but now I have 2 full weeks off of work and only 3 more days of Talking Sitcom podcast with you. So that means I get not many days off, because there's still Star Wars podcast, there's still movie podcast, there's still Patriots podcast, there's still Superman comic book podcast I need to get back to. There's so much to do. Stranger Things I need to do a new show for that. There's lots to do, but one thing I won't be doing is talking Christmas sitcoms with you after Wednesday. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. It is absolutely Monday right now, and last night I spoke with my cousin Brandon. That already happened because I'm talking to you on Monday, so this is obviously Monday when I recorded it. Let's look back, think about last night's episode. Oh, that was funny. Remember when Brandon said that thing? Oh, hilarity ensued. What a wonderful day it is. And oh, remember that Patriots game I watched yesterday? Oh, what a valiant effort they gave. Ho, ho, hum. And of course, you can, if you listen to the Patriots, or like the Patriots, I should say, you can listen to my Patriots Afterthought podcast or watch me crying on YouTube every Sunday after every Patriots game. But that is me getting ahead of myself and talking about things that already happened yesterday, which was Sunday. Today, obviously, is Monday, the 23rd, and I'm here to talk about The Monkees. The Monkees, another show that is, solely in the 60s, but for me, it felt, I don't want to say like a modern show, but it felt like a show that picked up steam in the 80s because of being in reruns, because of constantly being on, I think, WLVI Channel 56 in my town. You see, years later, it got put on Nickelodeon. It had a resurgence in the 80s, as most things, at a certain point in every decade, there's nostalgia for, a decade, 2, 3 decades ago. We had the 50s nostalgia with Happy Days, the 60s nostalgia here. But this is actually, I'm getting ahead of myself because Happy Days was talking about the 50s. This actually happened in the 60s. This actually happened, the episode I'm talking about today actually happened on Christmas Day. It aired on Christmas Day in 1967. My parents were in college at the time. Neither myself nor my brother were born. We weren't born until the 70s. But Christmas Day in 67, and I kind of left the issue I was talking about. The whole thing was that this show had that resurgence in the 80s. And I think in the 80s, people looked back nostalgia on the 50s and the 60s. And then, of course, in the 90s, people look back on the 70s and so on and so forth. And people are still looking back on the 80s today. I feel like we're the generation that grew up in the 80s. And now, with the generation of social media, there is so much of that retro nostalgia for the 1980s. But it still did happen in previous generations. It just, there was not this mass way of anyone to communicate about it like they do nowadays. So, long way of saying, even though the show is in the 60s, I definitely have memories of watching it a lot because of reruns. And as I said already, it aired on December 25th, 1967. And what I like to do is go back and look at what was on TV that night in 1967. And I'll tell you right now, in primetime, guess what wasn't on? The Monkees. This was a Christmas Day Monday, and the Monkees weren't on NBC until 7:30. Now, I don't know if they were always a before primetime show. It kind of makes sense that they were, because this really felt like, for the most part, it is for children. It is for kids. The comedy is very silly, very not a parody, but very much like a farce. I think that's the way. It's just over the top, cartoonish humor, and then mix in this really hippy dippy song moment where they're burning incense, and you think, okay, the show might be for the kids, But these Monkees were definitely, living in that 60s, young adult mindset. In 67, this is like in the middle of Vietnam. So, of course, at the end, they look right in the camera and they wish for peace. There's a cool thing at the end. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it doesn't really matter. It's not part of the actual episode, where they say, hey, thank you for everyone who watches this show. The Monkees, for the last 2 years, we've had all these people behind the scenes who work so hard and away from their families, and we want to thank them all right now. And they literally bring out every crew member almost, and they're naming them. And Davy Jones remembers almost all their names. He's like, but I don't know your name, and I know you, and this and that. He brings out all the guys. And then we have the girls from The Office, and like literally you could tell these guys were either not expecting to be on camera or not used to being on camera. They're just like these old white dudes, or some of them are young, hippie guys that look like the new crew that showed up on Mad Men. Like they have longer hair and the one, mustaches. And they're just kind of waving to the camera and hamming it up. And it was just a fun it was a genuine fun thing for the whole cast and crew. And I don't remember ever seeing that. I don't remember this episode at all. And there's a lot about the episode itself that I can't wait to talk about. But just this little ending showing the family of the people that put together just this little show that ran for a couple seasons. In fact, let me just get you the exact number. The Monkees ran for... by the way, today's episode I said was Christmas Day, 1967. It is the second season, 15 episodes. And guess what? They only had 59 episodes total, which you would think nowadays is 3 seasons. Nope, only 2 seasons completely. So... what we saw in season 2 was kind of the middle of the run, and then it left the world in episode 26. But the thing is the Monkees is about is a show, if you don't know, about a band, a group of young men who are in a rock and roll band. It's funny, when I saw commercials for it, they kept talking about a string quartet. They called them a string quartet. Because in 1967, maybe they were afraid to say a rock and roll band, but I mean, this was the age of the Beatles. In fact, the Monkees are created specifically because the Beatles exist. I mean, look, they're called the Monkees. It's an animal, and the name is spelled wrong. Come on. But the thing about the Monkees show is that they actually had hit songs, and with them singing, with Mickey Dolenz and Davy Jones doing most of the singing, and because of those hit songs, the band that was not real became a real band that actually went on tour, that actually put out records, that actually, were still active all the way through, recently, the last few years. Now there's only one of them left. I think Davy Jones was the first to pass away, then Peter Tork, most recently Mike Nesmith, and now Mickey Dolenz, I think, is the last Monkee alive, which is sad because you just think of them as these younger versions of themselves. There's a clip on YouTube. I was going to play the audio, but it's really not, there's not much going on, where it's in the 80s and Davy Jones kind of has a little bit of a mullet. And I remember that version of Davy Jones, and they're all together again. And they're singing, and they're on MTV with the VJs, and they're singing Christmas songs. And I think that's the Nickelodeon commercial says, you saw them on MTV and now you want them to go on tour. And I think that maybe that started their resurgence, maybe. But at the end, like, there's a guy dressed as Santa, and at the end they take off the beard and the hat, and you see that it's Mike Nesmith. I think the whole point was, oh, he's still with the band, because I know at certain points people left. Like, there's a clip I played of I think it's a radio commercial for one of their albums, and Peter Tork's not in the band at this point. He left the band after. It's like, I think after the show ended. This was still in the 60s. He's not on the album. He's not in the band. Later on, he's back in the band. I mean, I think, and I don't even know if they were real musicians. I think some of them were. They obviously could sing, and they became this group. And it's so funny. I'm looking at my screen right now, and the Monkees IMDb page is playing the opening credits, and that is such an iconic opening credits to me. All the clips, every single one I remember. And like, they show the cast. They don't even play the real names. They just show their first names, because they all play themselves, basically heightened versions of themselves. And they show the first names, and everybody they show is Peter. And Peter's like, that's not me. And he's making faces. And then finally we see Peter at the end. Like, there are so many iconic moments about this show that just are like, in the pop culture lexicon. And of course, the theme song. The theme song is a huge hit. And I hadn't heard it in years, and I remember just about every single word. Now, this episode, as I said, is a Christmas episode, and what's fun about it is not just the episode itself and the premise, but the special guest actor on the show. Now you're going to say, Mike, how did you see the show? How did you find the show? Well, I looked up online, Monkees, and somebody posted beautifully digitized versions of every episode, and they threw it on a Google Drive folder that they made completely public. A link to it on Reddit. So I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes. I don't know. I don't think there's enough people listening here that's going to be like, that's going to shut that down. And if they do, I apologize. But not as far as I can tell, this thing has been up for years. And it is a really nice copy of these episodes. But at first I thought there was something wrong because there was no laugh track. And I remember, I was like, no, the Monkees had a laugh track, didn't they? And I think I looked it up and it said early on they did try a laugh track, but they got rid of it. I think it's better off they didn't because it felt less canned. Because a show, when it's not on a set stage or, it's like an actual, you could tell it's like, filmed in front of a live studio audience. It just feels faker when you have that laugh track, which they didn't in the show, and it's better for it. It's Christmas Day, and the band shows up at this rich house, and the butler's like, I thought we were expecting 4 young, respectable musicians. And they made some joke about, what if we shaved or something? What if you said 4 shaved ladies? I don't even know what the joke was. And it turns out they weren't hired to be musicians. They were hired by this woman to babysit her nephew, because she's going away skiing on Christmas and he does not want to go. He is this stuffy little prick of a nerd named Melvin. And he does not want to go with her, and he does not want to be with them. He's like, fine, hold my hand. It helps my aunt to deal with me. Have fun on your trip. Goodbye. And then he leaves with the Monkees, and she's like, goodbye, sweet boy. She actually wants to be with him. She's not pawning him off, which kind of you'd think would be like the rich aunt doesn't want to be with the nephew. Nope. We don't know where his parents are. But I'm assuming he's an orphan and he lives with her. He's raised by her. But here's the thing. I looked this kid up. He was pretty good in this episode. And I'm like, who is this little actor? And I looked it up on IMDb, and I had to clean my glasses to make sure I was seeing this correctly. Butch Patrick, Eddie Munster himself, plays Little Melvin. I was blown away. And then once I at one point he takes his glasses off, I'm like, oh, I can see Eddie Munster under there. He's got lighter hair. He's a little older. This is after the Munsters. And he's playing a completely different character. They go back to the Monkees' house and they're trying to impress this kid, and he does not want anything to do with them. He's like, who cares about Christmas? It's not real. What's important is he asks them math questions and all these things, and they all try to break through him. They're like, this isn't going to work. I know what we can do. Take them shopping. So they go to a store. Hilarity ensues. Peter takes a moped and starts riding it around and causing damage. There's all these toys that get knocked over. It's just all kinds of insanity happens, and this kid is not enjoying it. He's like, I don't like this at all. And they're like, I know, I have an idea. Let's take him for a tree. But first, Peter crashes the motorbike, so he needs to be seen by a doctor. They only have so much money, so they had to pay the doctor. And it's funny, the doctor's like, it's $20. He goes, what? He goes, you know what? It's Christmas. Make it $19.95. And he opens his jacket, and the doctor has a little change maker, and he gives them a nickel back. Merry Christmas. So then they're like, Michael's like, I have an idea. Let's take them Christmas tree shopping. So they all go Christmas tree shopping, and they hit this lot, and it's way too expensive. So they finally find a tree they can afford, but a little old lady comes up, and the kid's like, I thought it was better than giving than receiving, because Mike is fighting her over the tree. She whacks him over the head, and he's like, fine, I can let her have it. But because he got hit in the head, now he gets seen by the doctor, and the doctor another charge of $20. Then they decide to go chop a tree down. So they're going to chop a tree down. It's too hard. Mike's trying to. He can't do it. They're like, let's go buy a tree. So they end up getting a tree, bringing it home. Now Davy is up on the tree going, when I was younger, they said I could never put the star on top. But look at me now. Then he slips and falls. And now he needs to see the doctor. So everyone's seeing the doctor. I don't remember if Mickey Dolenz saw the doctor. So the kid's like, I don't like this at all. This Christmas stinks. You're not, I'm not in the spirit. And Mike's like, you know what? Fine. You can't, the spirit doesn't exist if you don't believe in it. And he's like, I want to go home. I have a butler and a maid at home, and they'll take care of me just fine. So he goes back to the house, and it looks like the butler and the maid are like, oh, what are you doing back, Mr. Melvin? We're heading out for dinner. He said, oh, okay. I'll be fine alone. They're like, we'll leave you alone. They're leaving this little kid alone. Not very safe. If he could be left alone in the first place, why did he leave? So he's left alone. They go off, and he sits down, and he looks at this like silver serving dish. He sees his reflection in it, and he just starts crying. He starts crying, and he starts reminiscing about what could have happened, what should have happened. Then we get this extra long montage of the store and shopping, yet everything is happy. He's riding around on the moped with Peter. He's opening toys. He's dancing with a woman who works there. He's dancing with a girl. He's fooling around with Davy, like they're climbing on his shoulders. They're carrying him. Everything's wonderful. Everything's perfect. And he's crying and realizing I could have had all these wonderful things. Meanwhile, the Monkees were not giving up. They're not giving up any, on this kid. Because even though the aunt's out of town, they're like, let's break in the house and make this kid like Christmas. So Mickey and Davy climb through the chimney, and they get down, and they're covered in soot, and they start singing a Christmas carol. Peter and Michael come in with the tree, and they're like, we're going to give you Christmas, and that's not all we're going to bring you. And they brought the aunt out. And she's like, Melvin, I thought you didn't want to be with me. He goes, I thought the same thing about you, but I had the most wonderful time. Like, did you really? You had a nice fantasy. And the guys tried, but they're like, oh, thank you so much. Oh, I love you. Merry Christmas. And Christmas is saved. And Melvin loves Christmas again, and he loves being with his aunt. And that's the entire end of the episode. But I was like, wait, there's still too much time left. So we come back, and then we get to really my favorite part of this episode, so much so that I'm going to play the entire thing from you. The four Monkees come on, and they sing this like Spanish song called Riu Chiu. And Riu Chiu was a traditional call of Basque shepherds guarding their flocks. The text is built around strong images of shepherds as God the Father. So it's kind of a Christmas carol written in Spanish, and it looks like it was popularized by the Monkees singing it on this episode.
Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera. Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera. Riu, riu, shiu, la guarda ribera. Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera. Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera.
El lobo rabioso la quiso morder, mas Dios poderoso la supo defender. Quízole hacer que no pudiese pecar, ya no originales tu virgen no tuviera.
Riu, riu, shiu, la guarda ribera. Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera. Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera.
Esta que es nacido es el gran monarca, Cristo patriarca de carne vestido, ya nos redimido con serse chiquito, aunque infinito, finito se hiciera.
Riu, riu, shiu, la guarda ribera. Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera. Dios guardó el lobo de nuestra cordera.
I'm sorry, I thought that was so cool that I had to play the whole thing. The whole thing's up on YouTube too, so they obviously know they had some kind of, little hit. They had something special there. So the whole thing is listed on the is viewable on the Monkees official YouTube channel. I should put a link to that in the show notes as well. You know what? I will. And then that's when they have the whole thing where they start calling out all the cast, all the crew, everyone behind the scenes. Like they're like, no one's behind the camera right now, because they even bring the cameraman out. And that was just a really fun moment that just felt like like they were a little family. And I mean, think about it. This is almost 60 years ago, 67. So we're talking 60. Here, I'm going to do it. Ready? 67, 77, 87, 97, 2007, 2017. Okay. Then we get to 2027. That would be 60. But we're not there yet. So we're going to cut back 3 years. So it's 57 years ago. That's just math, folks. And I think Melvin will be proud that I was able to do that so quickly. Wow. 57 years ago, they had something to say because they're the young generation. The video, they're burning incense during this. And I'm like, that's very much like so 60s groovy, man. I really dug that part. It just completely, it's like the story's over with. Now let's have a little fun. Let's do some, Christmas singing and kind of show off their chops that they are, they can be taken seriously as singers, at least. I don't know, musicians, because they sounded damn good to me. So I think that's it. Oh my goodness gracious. I think we're done here. And I think that means, I know that means there's only 2 episodes left. And you know what Wednesday's episode is. If you pay attention to this podcast at all, you know what Wednesday's episode is. But what is tomorrow's episode? I know what it's going to be. And I can't wait to rewatch that episode and talk about it. But you don't know. So you're going to have to stick around and find out. And if you show up tomorrow, you'll know the answer. But until then, you can find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Mastodon, and Twitter at Geek Mentality. On TikTok, it's Geek Mentality Mike. On Facebook, it's Fans Not Experts. On YouTube, it's Fans Not Experts. That's because the website is fansnotexperts.com. That's it. I'm done. I'm very grateful that I watched this episode. Very happy that I put it on the schedule this year. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time. And I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans Not Experts.